Okay, so today we're going to be going over how not to produce a job posting and how not to accept an application. So right now what we're looking at is an administrative assistant, ostensibly with the Baldwin Fairchild Oak Lawns Chapel in Sanford, Florida. This job posting is on Indeed. Now, I won't go over Indeed's new UI, which is no longer as ergonomic as it once was. You can see as I'm scrolling this enormity of white space on the right here and this enormity of white space on the left here, while instead of reading things the way we do in the Western world, left to right, we are reading more vertically than we are horizontally, which again makes for a poor ergonomic design, but we won't get to that. The point is, we have all of this information. We have benefit options here listed. We don't have a pay rate, and that could be important considering administrative assistant tends to vary wildly in how well that position is paid in terms of salary or wage. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hit apply now. Okay, so first things first, we're already having problems here loading the page. But more importantly, what we've done is we've redirected ourselves to a third-party website, a third-party client for the application process. This is already a problem. As you can see, this position, you should be able to apply for this position. If you're posting on Indeed, you should be able to apply for this position on Indeed. A third-party client should not be necessary. Indeed offers all of the sort of services that this third party is that SEI is going to offer, and in a far more intuitive layout. Now, this is not the worst of offenders, but we're going to get to see how this works. So I'm actually going to log out and then go back here so I can see. So I'm going to go ahead and apply to this position. So I'm going to use an email account that is different from the one I used previously for this. So here's another issue I have right here. The first page that is brought up once we've already hit apply. So now, first things first, we've gone through one click to apply, which brought us to the third-party client. And then we clicked again, so that's 2 clicks to bring us to this screen you see here, where we have an email address. Ostensibly, we're going to need to log on to this account, which means I'm going to have to create a login name and password for another company. I don't like doing this. Nobody likes doing this. The password that I create and login information I'm going to create is going to have to go on to a separate document that I'm going to be storing locally that's going to include all of my screen names and passwords. That's insane. So that's step one. That you should not have to log on to a third party to submit an application. Furthermore, I've already logged on to Indeed for this purpose. So why am I continuing to log on to a third party client for this purpose? But moving on. So we're going to go through basic information. Here we have, this is good. This is good. Please select your resume from one of the following. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and select my resume. It kind of doesn't matter what we're going to use for this because, to be honest, I'm not actually going to finish this application, and you'll see why. But I've uploaded my resume. Great. So my contact name was imported from the resume. I'm going to use my new login information. Now, I'd love to use the password I use for everything else, but I have these requirements. Now, that doesn't actually make your password more safe. What it means for hackers is when they see that, they know it's going to include a list of the following. So if I just type in anything, we know that it's going to be at least 8 characters long. We know that it's going to include an uppercase letter, and we know that it's going to include a numeric value, which means that actually narrows the focus down for people who are trying to hack into your account, which makes it therefore easier for them to hack into the account because a huge number of passwords are not going to be accepted. But let's come up with one for this website. It's not going to really matter because, again, we're not going to actually finish this application. The email address is already in use. I see, because I've already done this before. So let's do another one. This email address is already in use. Okay, see, this is where we're having problems, because if I didn't remember that I had this account, which I wouldn't, because I have about 30 different, there's an infinite number of third-party clients that can be used, and if you're using an infinite number of third-party clients, there's an infinite number of login names and passwords that I have to remember, also considering the fact that there's an infinite number of login names and passwords that I have to remember that I have used. So, for example, I do not know when I click on this, SCI, whatever that is, corporate SCI, whatever this is, that I have even logged into this account. So what I will have to do is actually, oh, it's the email that's the problem. So we're going to do, but you see, this is why there's problems with forcing a user to log in. Okay, so now we need a contact information, which is listed atop the attached resume, but we'll go on with that. Now, it was able to extrapolate all of that information from my resume, which is great. So now we're going to go to additional data cover letter. Why is this not, first things first, now I've gone through, I can't tell you how many clicks. When you are doing website design, when you are building software, they tell you on day 1 of Computer Science 100, Intro to any computer science class, 101, day 1. You are building the software or website for the end user. It should be easy to use and intuitive for the end user. Minimize clicks. We've already failed that metric, because if I were to have done this through Indeed, I would have already been done. I would have had 3 or 4 clicks at most, depending on how many fields they're going to require me to fill out. And then I'm done. Why all of this information can't be included on the first page is beyond me. If we're going to include our email address, and we're going to be including a place to upload the resume, why not also include, since, and this is speaking to all of this white space, it's dead space, this gray space, it's dead space, more gray space, it's dead space. We're using huge text boxes for a font size that's that looks like about size 14 font, and yet we're using a size 18 font text box. So this is poor design to begin with. But again, this should all be on the first page. So what we're going to do is, I've already constructed a cover letter. So I'm going to go ahead and go up to cover letter, administrative assistant. Yeah, I mistitled the document, but that's not the point. This used to be asterisked, so I had to go through here and scroll, because the software isn't designed well. There's no way to do this other than to scroll, it reloads, scroll, it reloads, scroll, it reloads, and now there are thousands of time zones to pick from, and I have to get to Eastern. Of course, the website has, it looks like, crashed in that drop-down box, but moving forward, now we are at a point where we should be done. I have my cover letter submitted. I have my resume submitted. It obviously includes all of my work history and my education. If it did not include that, that means I have no idea at a fundamental level how to build a resume. If I have no idea at a fundamental level how to build a resume, that should by itself inherently disqualify me from a position as an administrative assistant. Therefore, at this point, I should be done. Furthermore, if we went back to our description of the position, which we can actually get from Indeed, it makes very specific to include things like must have advanced computer, internet, and word processing skills, working knowledge of office equipment including, etc., effective communication skills, both orally and in writing. If you cannot complete an effective resume and cover letter, you are automatically disqualified from this position. This is a prima facie disqualification, which means we don't need to repeat any of this, but we're going to go ahead and continue. Okay, now we are required to fill out some information. Fortunately, some of this information was already filled out for me. Are you eligible to work in the United States? Yes. Are you 18 years of age or older? Yes. Are you willing to relocate? Yes. Here we go. Pick from all the states. I'm going to highlight all of them because I will relate anywhere for that good job. Date available to start. Well, it's March 23rd. So let's just say, for argument's sake, and this can be renegotiated later, April 15th, 2018. Have I previously worked for them? No. Do you have any relatives currently employed by this organization? No. Will I now or in the future need sponsorship? No. Education. Again, this is on the attached resume, as it should inherently be, which means that this is unnecessary information that I'm now filling out. So let's go with college, university, and the institution name is, well, it's Binghamton University, but they don't have it listed here as Binghamton University. They have it listed here in the far less intuitive SUNY Binghamton. In fact, it's not even SUNY Binghamton, it's SUNY at Binghamton. And that is located in Vestal, New York. And it's located in the United States. Did I graduate? Yes, I did. Degree. Now, this is not asterisked, but I've already filled this out, so I already know. So here's another problem with your application. Not asterisking things that are actually required to be filled out. So I'm going to put in my degree. Work experience. This is a major folly of in the application process. You should, N-E-V-E-R, never, ever, never require this field to be filled. You should never require this information. This information can be optional, but you should absolutely never require it. Why? I have already uploaded a resume. And if we go back to here, as I recall, this must have been a different application. But this is, again, for an administrative assistant position. We've already gone through the job requirements. If you can't put together a well-organized and comprehensive and clear and legible resume and cover letter, that is an automatic disqualifier from this position, as anyone should be able to intuit. So what I'm actually going to do, because this is insane, is just do see resume for all of these positions. Because if you were sitting with me right now on the opposite side of this desk, and I handed in a resume to you, I personally would not care how you fill this out. Now I have drop-down boxes, so I'm just going to put Connecticut and United States. We'll make up dates, January 1st, 1900 to January 1st, 1900. See resume, see resume, see resume, see resume. See resume, see resume, see resume, see resume. We'll do, I think my previous job was Georgia, and it was in the United States. Let's do January 1st, 1900 to January 1st, 1900. See resume, see resume, see resume, see resume. I don't have any military service. I'm not putting any references down at this point. I'm not bothering with any of the licensures that I have. So I agree to their terms and service. I submit. I should be done. I should be done. Have I previously worked for the company? Now, you've already asked this question. And please don't tell me that this redundancy is to weed out candidates who are going to lie. Well, you'll be able to find this out anyways. If I'm lying before, I'm just going to lie again and say, have I previously worked for them? No. This is called a redundancy. And anything, redundancies are effectively unnecessary. You should avoid them at all costs. Am I 18 years of age or older? Again, I've already done this. Am I eligible to work in the United States? Yes, I've already done this. Will I require sponsorship? No. In fact, you had radio buttons that you were required to fill out for this information. And again, checking for inconsistencies doesn't help this process, especially when this is not the worst of offenders. The worst of offenders have these repetitions dozens of times and have hundreds of fields to fill out. In haste, which we will see, and I'll explain why this would happen, you might not fill this out. Now, you can tell from the length of this video at 15 minutes now. We are at the 15-minute mark, and I've already completed this, and I already know what's going into this. What I didn't show you is that I tailored this resume and this cover letter specific to this position, which means that we're adding another half hour to this process. So we're at over 45 minutes already. We should have long been done. But we're going to have another click. So for those of you at home, keep a click counter for the number of times that I had to click on this. Now this information, you shouldn't even be asking it. You should be looking for the most qualified candidate regardless of race or sex. Or in this case what they've said, gender. Now remember, when we talk about this sort of discrimination policies, what we're looking for is looking for an employer who's willing to judge you not by the color of the skin, of your skin, but by the content of your character. Does that sound familiar? So I shouldn't have to put in opt out. I shouldn't have to put this in. This should not even be a screen on the employment application process, in the employment application process. But we're going to fill it out anyways, even though this is, for most companies, a disqualifier by virtue of not opting into these positions. If I tell the truth, I'm a white male. If I tell the truth, again, I know for a fact that that is a disqualifier in many jurisdictions. This is what is called discrimination, when you disqualify somebody because of their gender or their race. Now, there's a separate argument to be made as to whether or not this is right, or whether or not that should be legal. But the point is, you are doing this just by virtue of presenting this screen. You are discriminating. So, because one of the options you're going to see is opt out. And you are going to make a decision based on how I've answered this question, even if the way I've answered this question is to opt out of it. Like the old Rush saying, you can choose not to decide, but you still have made a choice. But we're going to go on to yet another screen. How many years do you have working in an administrative support role? Well, I'm going to go ahead and say more than 5 years, because that's the truth. Multitasking in a detail-oriented and fast-paced environment. This is a dumb question, because that is so broad in its terminology that could mean anything. So I'm going to go ahead and say 5 years. But again, a dumb question to ask. How would you rate your proficiency with basic technology and computer applications? It's on my resume, but I'll call it expert. Are you willing to work on-call after hours? Yes, of course I am. Okay. Do you have experience working with funerary? Yes, I do. And I am comfortable. How many experience do you have working in customer service? More than 5 years, as clearly indicated on my resume. Here's where you have failed miserably, and you have fundamentally failed in your job application. The starting rate of pay for this position is $11.50. So, now we have spent 18 minutes on this video and over a half hour outside of this video getting to this position. Why is $11.50 an hour, the starting rate of pay for this position, not on the initial Indeed posting? If you are eventually going to get to this position and you are as an employer willing to disclose this information during the initial application process, which we are in, why are you not making that the first step in this process? You are certainly going to alienate applicants who have spent 45 minutes on this application to find out that you're not willing to disclose that information until the very end, especially if $11.50 an hour is either not acceptable or even borderline not acceptable. If you had posted this up front and I was looking for $12.50 an hour, I may have been willing to, for example, eat that dollar an hour in the initial application process just to get to that point. what you have done is weeded out that candidate who said, you know what, I need the job, I'll take $11.50 an hour even though I'm looking for $12.50, who is qualified to be working at $12.50 an hour. What you've further done is, if you have any other positions with your firm available that would say justly pay $25 an hour, people who are qualified for that position at $25 an hour and would be willing to take $25 an hour that have seen this are now alienated by your company and are also further alienated by this third-party client and are not going to apply to this position. So I am obviously not going to hit next. As you can probably tell, $11.50 an hour is certainly beneath my qualifications, which I could have figured out before I wasted 45 minutes on this application. And ostensibly, we are just about done with this. However, we still somehow have another click. Let me explain to you what this application should look like. Job description. Apply now. This should bring me to the Indeed screen that allows me to hand in a resume and a cover letter. I'll give an example of this. So we're going to go to cemetery and we're going to look in Jacksonville. Find jobs. Director of Catholic Cemeteries. We've got a nice description here. I've already applied. Let's see if we can't find one that I haven't applied to. Let's go to maintenance worker. Here we go, maintenance worker. We have disclosed, page 1, $11 to $13 an hour. You cannot tell me that it was you were justified in disclosing that information after 45 minutes of endeavoring into this application for exactly the same price. It was exactly the same price, but this company was willing to disclose that information right up front. So we have a very different position, but here we're going to hit apply now. And we've brought up the interface built into Indeed. And I'm going to go ahead and apply with a different resume. I'm going to choose file. I'm going to go into primary stuff. Let's go into this one right here. It's my superintendent letter. And I can insert a cover letter, which I can do because I have one that fits this description and is built for this description. Cover letter, superintendent, Control A, Control C, Control V. And then all I'm going to do is change response to the assistant manager position. I'm going to change that to maintenance worker. Position with, well, it says Hawk Enterprises up at the top. Hawk Enterprises Ltd. And then I'm going to have continue. So I haven't completed the application process. Indeed already knows how much background tractor experience I have. This is why I shouldn't have to go through a third-party client. Indeed tracks this information. Have I completed that? Yes, I already have that. Am I willing to undergo background regulation? Yes, of course I am. It says I want to move, this is in Florida, but I'm located in, do I want to move to Florida? Of course I want to move to Florida. And now I can hit apply. Now I'm not going to apply because I don't want them to call me because I'm way overqualified for this position. But I'm done. What did that take? I already had I can use my generic resume, I can use a generic cover letter, and I can hit apply and be done. And all of the questions that this company asked were companies that I was forced to fill out, or questions I was forced to fill out effectively with this position as well. Yet this position took me, where is it? This position took me about 60 seconds to fill out the application. I realize that you might put barriers into preventing yourself from getting, say, thousands of applications. However, this company here, administrative assistant at Baldwin Fairchild Oaklawn Chapel. I have worked at a cemetery. I have put out these type of job postings on Indeed for very similar positions. You don't get thousands of applications. You are not Google. You are not GoDaddy. You are not Facebook. You are not getting thousands and thousands and thousands of applications. You do not need automatic disqualifiers. Furthermore, the entrance barrier of having a daunting application process, which they are clearly paying, because this SCI company, this CIMS, whatever this is company, they are clearly charging for this service. Even Indeed is working towards towards charging their customers to post on Indeed. Even Craigslist is now charging employers to post job offerings on Craigslist. I do not believe the service is being offered for free. If you really want to weed out candidates, what you do is you create a crawler that will search through people's resumes and cover letters to look for certain sentences, words, combinations of words. You're looking for certain items, and you can either use those items that you have searched for to exclude candidates or to include candidates. Or to, if you're not going to exclude certain candidates, put certain candidates at the front of the stack so you see them first. That is a better expenditure of money, and it's exactly, and generally speaking, these crawlers are offered by third-party clients at very little, at exactly the same price point as the service that we're looking at right now. The short of it is, all you should need to do is submit a resume and a cover letter. Those that are seeing these barriers that say 45-minute application are just not going to complete that application if it's not a position that they know is going to be worth handing in that application. So what you've essentially done is the most qualified candidates, you've weeded them out. You are not weeding out the least qualified candidates, and I can tell you that from experience, that the bottom end of the pool, the dregs of society that think they might be qualified for this position, the bottom end of the people who are going to apply for this position will put up with this because they know on the other end of it is a position that they desperately want, or that they're not well qualified for. But if they can get the position, if they can get through this hurdle, the reward on the other end is so great that it makes up for all of these hurdles that you've had to overcome. I will illustrate this in another video. But the point is, this process should take 60 seconds for your applicant. I get it. Google, GoDaddy, Amazon, Facebook, they're going to need to weed through tens of thousands of candidates for every position that they post, which means they're going to have to include a litany of screening processes during the application process. This is unnecessary for virtually all companies. This is a poor way to screen out candidates because you're losing the top end of the candidates and none of the bottom end of your candidacies, and none of the bottom end of your candidates. So, please, for the love of God, take this advice. I will be posting more videos on this matter to give a more thorough description of what I'm talking about. But hopefully this video goes viral so people actually get this, and the people that are looking to hire people aren't desperately looking for people, aren't hiring people that are underqualified, and aren't missing out on the opportunity to hire people who are overqualified for the position, but may take the position out of desperation if they don't have to jump through these ridiculous hoops.